Hotep. Hotep is a greeting that means peace in the ancient Kemetic language, and Mwalimu means teacher in Kiswahili and is the equivalent to the English word professor. We are continuing to plant the seeds of consciousness for the growth and benefit of our community by sharing powerful nuggets of knowledge from our global Black history. With a Pan-African approach and an African-centered perspective, we are exploring not only our long history, but our connections to it and to each other. Good people, I continue to be excited to say, once again, Hotep. My name is Mwalimu Melody Masheri Van Putten, and this is Mwalimu Dropping the Knowledge. As I begin to be pointedly focused for the remaining episodes of what will be MDDK's last season in this format, I want to talk about the state of our affairs in what will be a double episode. While it is important to highlight our heritage, our connections, and the various lessons, it is equally important to assess where we are now as a global people. It is especially critical to examine what are the impediments to our progress. After all, we have been global survivors and overcomers for 400 years of unprecedented inhumanity. What is preventing us from thriving and retaking our place on the world stage of history, culture, and policy making? To answer that question, I investigated historical and contemporary scholars whose work has powerfully influenced my own. But before I get ahead of myself, let me begin, as is customary, poetically speaking, the state of our affairs. To paraphrase wise ancestor John Henrik Clarke, when you start Black history from the era of enslavement, everything from that point on looks like progress. No physical chains on our wrists or ankles, but invisible chains are still firmly fastened around the temples of our heads. As written by wise scholar ancestor Carter G. Woodson, miseducation was designed to train the Negro to his proper place and to stay in that place en masse, with few exceptions, a cultivated illusion of forward movement and race progress. As conceived by wise scholar ancestor W.E.B. Du Bois, double consciousness has us warring in our minds, toing and froing with white supremacy, integration, and revolution in a path fraught with division, despair, and despondency. Laying low too many of our visionary leaders, from Lumumba to Cabral, Garvey to Malcolm, and Nkrumah to King, not to mention the legions of fierce warrior women who Sankara said held up the other half of the sky. The ultimate state of our affairs is our lack of knowledge of self. Not knowing who we are means we don't know what we are capable of. We don't know the examples of excellence that have already been set. We haven't studied our history and culture to determine the lessons applicable to us today. Lessons truly critical for us to move past surviving to thriving, taking our rightful place on the world stage of history, culture, and policymaking. To be clear, the examples of our excellence are legendary. From the architectural genius of the Great Pyramids, temples, and monoliths, to the first universities for higher learning, from systems of government commerce, and spirituality to the creation of the foundations of civilization, science, medicine, mathematics, and the creative arts, dance, poetry, drama, music, art, rites of passage, teaching our children respect, ethics, trades, and a love for community. Wise scholar ancestress Kariamu Welsh told us Egypt is to Africa what Greece is to Europe. Kemet, or ancient Egypt, still holds powerful lessons with the blueprint for our healing, restoration, and return to greatness, waiting for us to discover, embrace, and internalize. The state of our global affairs as people of African descent is rife with competing allegiances, jealousies, haters of self and others, with too little beloved community amongst us to pull it together with love, care, and a vision for all of us to see and embrace. A vision that inspires unity, Ubuntu, seeing ourselves in ourselves. That is what the honorable ancestor Marcus Garvey achieved. The blueprint for unity has been created to be attained once again. The monumental task of creating and sustaining unity and Ubuntu, seeing ourselves in each other, and, as the Yoruba sacred text implores, wanting none of the good to be lost, is our work to do. We have already lost so much, whether it is the wisdom of elders, now ancestors, the energy of adults feeling defeated, or the potential of our precious youth too often running amok. So much is at stake. Transformation means deeply understanding that our connections to each other is where our strength lies, waiting to be cultivated, embraced, shared, and realized to our mutual and global benefit. As the visionary Pan-African ancestor Kwame Nkrumah told us, we are one people. The answer to our dilemma is knowable. As written by the wise scholar and mentor to many, ancestor Asa G. Hilliard III was quite clear. The challenge of throwing off the shackles of miseducation in order to truly embrace ourselves and rise to our collective greatness is the work of Seba. Reading, studying, discussing, and connecting. To quote him directly, we do not lack brilliance, but we now lack urgency. Having drunk from the bitter cup of the colonizer, the expectations of nothingness, reinforced by individualism and materialism, having seeped into too many of our psyches, we tread in place without a purposeful vision for ourselves. Our sense of time distorted, whether we call it Bermuda time, island time, or CP time. To quote my brilliant colleague Tony Browder, CP time translates to conquered people's time. It really means staying exactly where we are, conquered. But as our wise ancestral mothers would say, playtime is over. Brother Browder also said, we have a small window of time in this radically changing world to do our work, the work of Seba, reading, learning, sharing, and shifting our collective consciousness. The window is open and the time is now. Question, do you know what time it is? We'll be right back.